Assalamu alaikum everyone. I've been asked about my revert story one too many times, so I decided to take the time out to make that video for you guys. So I won't get into too much detail about my past or my background and stuff like that. Long story abbreviated and a little shorter. Before I took the initiative to take Shahada, I was curious about Islam. 3 years prior, a little over 3 years prior to taking Shahada. So here's the funny part. It all started with a soap opera. I'm usually not into them, and this soap opera in particular was the remake of the original, which I had seen as a child. I was a child when I saw this soap opera, and it was a Spanish soap opera depicting Moroccan Muslims, and I didn't know or understand it back then, obviously because I was a kid, and then they had made a remake to this same soap opera, and I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, I recognize this. So I took the time out to watch it. I got really into it and I was excited because I had seen the previous one many years ago, and let me just say the soap opera was over 160 something episodes long. It was about a Moroccan Muslim woman, young girl, who was living in the States in Miami, Florida, and when her mother had passed away, she was sent back to Morocco to live with her family because she no longer had any family in the States who would look after her and care for her. Now at that time and point of my life, I was living a very toxic lifestyle, and unfortunately I was semi-unaware of how toxic it was, but in my consciousness I was able to recognize that perhaps I wasn't living the best life, morally wise, and I wasn't modest. I wasn't modest at all, so I feel like I have personally have came a very long way. With that being said, I am the only Muslim in my family on my mother's side and my father's side. I come from a Hispanic Catholic household, and my grandmother used to make pork for breakfast sometimes. And let me tell you, I was never really a pork fan, but I did used to drink alcohol, and I did eat the pork from time to time when it was like salami, fried salami and stuff like that. The lovely thing about it all is that I had stopped drinking alcohol a while before I converted to Islam, because without Islam in my life, I was still able to recognize that alcohol was not it. And I didn't like what it did to me. I didn't like what it did to my body. I never even liked what it tastes like. And I went from just not drinking alcohol at all for a while, and it was like an occasional beer every once in a blue, because I did have an acquired taste for Corona with little salt around the rim and some lime, and I used to really enjoy a nice cool cold Corona beer. And after a while it just became unnecessary and I didn't need it. So after I had finished watching that soap opera, my curiosity had peaked tenfold. Not just because of the soap opera, but because of the overall way that they represented Muslims. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a very bad representation. And let me remind you, this is a Latino Hispanic production soap opera. It was a show produced by Hispanics representing Muslims, and they did a way better job at representing Muslims than the American Netflix that tends to portray Muslims in a very negative and kafir-like manner, where we just all are dying to leave our religion. That's what they show us on Netflix. And in the soap opera I watched, it wasn't really like that. It was more or less of a woman knowing she loved Islam, but also had fallen in love with an American Latino man whom she was forbidden to marry. I do not have the support of my family with the route that I have chosen, and I don't have contact with a lot of them. And I know what Islam says pertaining to that, but it is also permissible to do so if you feel that they will interfere with your deen and encourage haram in you. And so I try to refrain from that, especially considering the fact that I am indeed a new Muslim, and I have been Muslim for less than a year. I converted to Islam in August 20th of 2021. So my father isn't very supportive and tends to make very nasty remarks about Islam. I'm not gonna get into it too much, like I said. So it's a lonely journey as it is, and a lot of Muslim brothers and sisters don't tend to make it any better. Our ummah really does need to do better. And I say this with the most sincerity in me possible. I had to take my shahada twice because of this fact. The first time I took shahada was a terrible and very uncomfortable experience because of an Arab brother that was there that really had no business being there. Since he wasn't the one giving me my shahada, he was just sitting there kind of sort of being nosy and interrogating me and, you know, asking me questions that he really didn't need to ask me, like as to trying to like maybe kind of shame me in some type of way because of where I come from. Anyways, like I said, I had to take my shahada twice because the first experience was terrible because our ummah has an issue with acceptance of new converts and reverts for some reason. Instead of being happy that the ummah is growing, they like to tend to make us feel uncomfortable and like we are not worthy of the religion. Stuff with Allah. I dove straight into hijab. Like, I started practicing before I even took shahada, and once I took shahada, I was kind of a full-time hijabi. I didn't waste any time because a person that came from my background, and because with my type of hair, I'm like a Spanish Rapunzel, and I felt like I'd struggle a lot with wanting to cover my hair if I didn't, you know, just kind of like force myself into it, basically. And I was able to deal, I was able to cope in my own sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the strength to do so, alhamdulillah. And I never struggled with the fact about modesty, because once I realized what modesty was and how much better it was for me, it was like I was happy, you know, and I was like, yeah, this is better. This is so much better than whatever I was wearing. It was just the whole having to cover my head part that I wasn't like so keen on, you know. But our personal opinions as to Allah's decrees are irrelevant. And I came to realize that and accept that as well, you know. And a lot of sisters till this day try to debate that hijab is not mandatory when every single scholar has already said that hijab is mandatory. So, I mean, it is what it is. I ended up getting into a relationship with a Yemeni. During that period, it was a haram relationship, and I was able to realize everything that I didn't want in a relationship. And I was able to see the difference between an actual Muslim man and someone without deen, basically. You know, I'm not gonna try to bash him or anything, but the fact of the matter stands. And this person wasn't good for me, and I guess I wasn't good for them. And I was with this person for over a year, and it enticed me more. Alhamdulillah, that's just how things go. Everything is maktub. And it enticed me more into the religion, and seeing how he didn't practice somewhat eventually made me want to practice more and be better, you know. So it was a sense of motivation and a big heartbreak for me. And well, here I am. As I said, Allah is the best of planners, and I would have never imagined to be where I am today with the state of mind that I have today, and completely covered the way I am today, or any of that, you know. And I'm glad that I was able to change my life around. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me himself, alhamdulillah. And I'm grateful, and this life is a test. No one is perfect. We're literally all in a journey, and this journey that we're all taking, we all have the same goal, which is to make it to Jannah. So with that being said, there's my revert story. It was nothing crazy, nothing that interesting. I mean, if I got into the details, perhaps, but I'm not gonna do that. So thanks for taking the time out to watch the video, and may Allah be pleased with you, and I hope that you all have an amazing day. Ameen.